"You're being sued for emotional abuse and financial control," the judge said, her voice echoing across the courtroom. I blinked. My mouth opened, but nothing came out. My wife, Samantha, sat beside her attorney in a tailored gray blazer and a cold, calculated smile. She didn't even flinch. She knew this was coming. Hell, she planned it. And somehow I was the last to know. I looked down at the thick stack of papers in front of me. Restraining orders, financial disclosures, a subpoena for my business accounts, and worst of all, a motion to freeze all my assets until the court could determine how much of it she deserved. We had no kids.
No prenup.
And suddenly, after 12 years of marriage, I was about to lose everything. Let me take you back. My name's Matthew Cole. I'm 46. I run a commercial logistics company just outside of Denver. Built it from the ground up, one client at a time, starting in a 2-car garage. I've got 30 employees, 2 delivery hubs, and 3 semi-trucks with my company's name on the side. By every definition, I'm successful. At least, I met Samantha when I was 34. She was 27 at the time, working as a community engagement manager for a nonprofit that partnered with local charities. Redhead, green eyes, the kind of woman that could walk into a room and make everyone turn their head without even trying. She had that girl-next-door warmth, with just enough mystery to keep you chasing her. We met at a fundraising gala. She was organizing it, I was a sponsor. And somehow, despite being swarmed by donors and CEOs, she made time to talk to me. Not just small talk either. She asked about my work, my passions, what I wanted out of life. It didn't feel like a date. It felt like a job interview where I didn't know what the job was, but wanted to get hired anyway. We were married within 2 years. First, things were great. Samantha always had a new cause to champion. She volunteered at shelters, organized food drives, helped women's empowerment groups raise money through silent auctions and brunch events. I was proud of her. So proud, in fact, that when she said she wanted to start her own nonprofit, something small, personal, I helped her do it. I didn't just support it. I funded it. I registered the LLC, helped her open a business account, gave her $75,000 to get it off the ground. She called it the Haven Project. She said it would help women leaving abusive relationships get a fresh start. That should have been the first red flag. But I trusted her. Why wouldn't I? She was my wife, my partner, the woman who made late-night tea when I was working till 2 a.m., who left notes in my briefcase before big meetings, who told me every day that she was proud of me. But that's the thing about being stabbed in the back. It always feels like a hug at first. 3 months ago, I started noticing things. She was different, colder, more distracted. She started sleeping in the guest room because of my snoring. She began locking her phone, even in the house. She had new friends, women I'd never met, names she never mentioned before. And then there was Daniel. He was listed as project consultant for the Haven Project. He was younger than me, fit, charming, former nonprofit director turned philanthropy strategist. Whatever the hell that means. At one point, she suggested I bring him on to help with my company's brand image. I declined. She didn't like that. The turning point came last month. I walked into the house early after a supply chain meeting was canceled. It was quiet, too quiet. I heard muffled voices upstairs. When I reached our bedroom door, I stopped. I didn't open it. I didn't barge in. I just listened. Once he signs the power of attorney, we're golden, a man's voice whispered. He won't even see it coming. I'll frame it as, for emergencies only. He trusts me. Samantha, my wife. I felt something inside me snap. I backed away from the door. Quiet, careful, numb. A week later, I contacted a lawyer. Her name was Paige Turner, yeah, like the book pun. She was sharp, brutal, and expensive. But I didn't care. I needed someone who wouldn't just help me survive. I needed someone who could help me fight. Paige told me something I'll never forget. Matt, if she's planning to bankrupt you, you need to go nuclear.
No emotion. No merci.
Get evidence. Get leverage. Or get ready to live in a 1-bedroom apartment while she takes your house, your business, and your future. I told her I was ready. But I had no idea just how deep Samantha's betrayal went, because that fake nonprofit, it wasn't just a scam. It was a weapon designed from day one to destroy me. I sat across from Paige, my attorney, in her downtown office the next morning. She wore a navy suit and black-rimmed glasses, typing something rapidly as I spoke. "I think she's having an affair," I told her. "But it's more than that. It feels organized. Like premeditated." Paige didn't even blink. "Oh, it is," she said. "Let me guess. She's been stockpiling money, shifting assets, claiming emotional distress to her friends." I just stared at her. "How did you?" "It's a pattern," she cut in. "And trust me, you're not the first guy to get blindsided by a charity." That's when she slid a folder across the desk. Inside was a background report on the Haven Project, Samantha's so-called nonprofit. Turns out it wasn't just a local women's shelter. It was part of a network. 6 other women-led empowerment organizations, all opened within the last 3 years, all run by women divorced within the past 12 to 18 months. And the kicker? They all used the same legal firm, Rothman and Bell. "That's who she hired," I said, my pulse quickening. "They're her attorneys." Paige nodded. "Of course they are. They specialize in aggressive divorce strategies. Female-only clientele. They've made a name for themselves by gutting men, financially, emotionally, reputationally. So I asked the obvious question. Are they legit? Paige hesitated for the first time. Legally, yes. Ethically, let's just say they walk a very thin line. They coach their clients to build a case before they ever file. Journal entries, false therapy records, even fake police calls for documentation. She leaned in, voice low. And if your wife's been coached by them, she's already 10 steps ahead. For the next few days, I played the role of clueless husband, smiling, nodding, pretending I didn't know she was sneaking off to strategy meetings with Daniel. I let her think I was still in the dark. But I wasn't sitting idle. I hired a private investigator named Carla Vaughn, former FBI, now specialized in high-conflict divorces. Her reviews said she was ruthless. That's exactly what I needed. Here's what I want, I told her. I need to know who's behind this. Not just my wife. I want everything. Who coached her? Where the money's going? If there's fraud, I want proof. If she's lying, I want it recorded. Carla smiled. You're not looking for a lawyer, she said. You're looking for a recon team. Exactly. Meanwhile, Samantha's behavior shifted. She started acting nicer. Offered to bring me coffee. Left notes again. Little sticky reminders that said, "Thinking of you today, Red Heart." She even tried to initiate intimacy. It wasn't affection. It was manipulation. She was setting the stage for her exit but trying to pad the court record. If I rejected her, she could claim I was emotionally withholding. If I lost my temper, she could call it abuse. This wasn't marriage anymore. It was a war zone, and I was the only one still playing by the rules. Then Carla called. "We've got something," she said. We met at a diner across town. She slid a flash drive across the table. Security footage from last week. Your wife and Daniel checking into a hotel in Boulder. 2 nights. Under aliases. She handed me photos. Time-stamped. Clear as day. But that wasn't the worst of it. Carla pulled out a second folder. "It's not just the affair," she said. "Look at this." Inside were wire transfer records. Samantha had been moving funds from the Haven Project's donation pool straight into a personal offshore account. Over $120,000 across 3 months. My stomach turned. I'd helped her set up the foundation's accounting. My name was still on the books as a co-founder and financial backer. If this went public, if she got caught, I wouldn't just lose my marriage or my money. I could go to prison. "She's laundering money," Carla said. "And she's setting you up to take the fall." I sat in my truck for a long time after that, thinking, remembering, the woman I met at that gala. The one who kissed me like I was her world. Who said she wanted to grow old together. None of it was real. Samantha Cole never existed. There was only the mask. And now, I was staring straight into the face beneath it, but she wasn't ready for what came next. Because if she thought I'd just roll over and let her destroy me, she hadn't been paying attention to the man she married. Samantha thought she was clever. A few fake tears, some "he's emotionally distant" nonsense, and boom. She'd walk away with half my company, a fat monthly payout, and a fresh start with her non-profit boyfriend. But she made one mistake. She underestimated the man who built everything from nothing. I called Paige. "We go public," I said. She paused. "Are you sure?" "She's laundering money through a fake women's charity. She's sleeping with her consultant. And she's using my name on the documents. You think I'm going to let that slide quietly?" We started small, strategic. Carla planted a GPS tracker in Samantha's car. That weekend, she drove 2 hours out of town. Met Daniel at a luxury cabin. They didn't know a drone was following them. The footage, crystal clear. Meanwhile, I had my accountant pull every tax filing from the Haven Project. Dozens of donations from women connected to Rothman and Bell, her divorce attorneys. Some were listed as anonymous sponsors. One was an actual judge's wife. It was a network. Not just cheating. Not just fraud. A full-blown operation. And then, I got the email. From Samantha. "Hey love, I was thinking we should start doing weekly check-ins. I want to be more intentional with our time together." The gaslighting was off the charts. She knew I was catching on. So she turned up the sweetness. But behind the curtain, she was already preparing to file. Too late. I was already 5 steps ahead. That night, I uploaded the drone footage. The wire transfers. The photos of her and Daniel. The emails. I created a secure drive, labeled it Haven Files, and sent the link to Paige with one sentence. "Burn her to the ground." 3 weeks after I sent the files to Paige, the bomb finally dropped. I came home from work to find a courier car parked outside the house. On the kitchen counter sat a thick envelope. Inside, divorce papers, served cold. No warning. She'd filed on the grounds of emotional abuse, controlling behavior, and financial manipulation. The gall. The audacity. The paperwork claimed I'd isolated her socially, limited access to finances, and, get this, intimidated her into signing over business decisions. She was painting me as a controlling tyrant. Meanwhile, I had footage of her whispering plans in bed with another man, and bank records showing she was laundering donations through a fake empowerment fund. And here's the kicker. She was suing me for half of my logistics company, the business I started 13 years before I ever met her. But Samantha didn't know something very important. That envelope, that was her first move, and I'd already made 5 of mine. The next day, Paige and I filed our counterclaim. Fraud, infidelity, financial misrepresentation, intentional infliction of emotional distress. We attached a 43-page evidence package. Drone footage, hidden camera audio, bank transfers, photos.
The pièce de résistance?
A notarized statement from one of Samantha's own donors, confirming that the Haven Project solicited donations under false pretenses. Paige said it best. "She tried to mug you in broad daylight and didn't realize you'd already called the SWAT team." But that wasn't even the best part. See, I had been quietly making changes behind the scenes. 6 days before she filed, I moved the majority of my company's holdings into a trust. Not to hide assets, legally everything was disclosed, but to protect what I'd built. The trust had 2 beneficiaries, my nephew and a charity for veteran truckers. Paige smiled when she saw the paperwork. "She can try to grab the house, the vehicles, your accounts, but she'll never touch the company." And she didn't even know it yet. A week later, we had our first court appearance. I walked into the courthouse with my head held high, dressed in a charcoal suit. Calm, quiet, controlled. Samantha was already seated with her legal team, 2 high-priced sharks from Rothman and Bell. She turned when I entered, smiled like she was already spending my money. I didn't look at her. The judge, a stern woman named Judge Morrison, called us forward. The preliminary hearing was about to begin. Her attorney stood up first. "Your Honor, our client is requesting temporary spousal support, immediate access to the marital home, and a court order to prevent Mr. Cole from disposing of any business assets. Judge Morrison raised an eyebrow. Is Mr. Cole under investigation for financial wrongdoing? Not at this time, but... Then your request is premature, she said flatly. Denied. That was blow number 1. Then Paige stood and calmly placed a thick folder on the judge's desk. Your Honor, we've submitted documented evidence of fraud, infidelity, and financial misconduct by the petitioner. We believe this was a strategic divorce designed to extract assets from my client using fabricated claims. Judge Morrison flipped through the evidence. Didn't say a word. Her brow furrowed the deeper she went. Then came blow number 2. Paige continued, we also have reason to believe the Haven Project, run by the petitioner, is engaged in charitable fraud. If the court permits, we will be filing a formal complaint with the Attorney General's office. Samantha's face went pale. That smile? Gone. That smug confidence? Evaporated. She turned to her lawyers, whispering something fast, her eyes darting between me and the judge. I didn't move. I just sat there, hands folded, letting it sink in. Outside the courtroom, she followed me to the parking lot. Matthew, wait. Can we talk? I stopped, turned. The rage I'd been holding back finally cracked through. You weaponized a fake charity, slept with your consultant, tried to make me look like an abuser, and now you want to talk? She opened her mouth, closed it. I saw it in her eyes. She hadn't expected me to fight back. She thought I'd fold, crumble, hand it all over just to make the noise stop. Instead, I was winning. That night, I sat in my office, whiskey in hand. I opened my laptop and reviewed the court transcripts. Everything had gone according to plan. But the war wasn't over. There were still assets in dispute. Still public perception to manage. Still one last blow to deliver. Because Samantha hadn't just tried to take my money. She tried to rewrite history, make me the villain, and walk away clean. But that wasn't happening. I wasn't just going to beat her in court. I was going to expose everything. And by the time I was done, her name would be toxic in every room she entered. Samantha once told me she wanted to be a voice for women everywhere. She dreamed of being featured in magazines, speaking at conferences, running TEDx talks about female empowerment. She wanted influence, applause, spotlights, so I gave her exactly that, but not the kind she imagined. 2 weeks after the court hearing, Paige made a strategic suggestion. If she wants to play the public image game, let's beat her there too. So we leaked it. Not everything. Not yet. Just enough to get people talking. A quiet tip to a local business journal. Allegations of financial misconduct surrounding the Haven Project founder Samantha Cole. That's all it took. Within 48 hours, 3 local blogs picked it up. The whispers started. People began asking questions. Where was the money going? Why was a small nonprofit buying luxury travel packages? Who was Daniel Sinclair? And why was he listed as a $7,000 per month contractor? Samantha's name was trending on local Twitter threads within days, right next to words like fraud and fake charity. I stayed quiet, let it simmer. She tried to gut me in silence. Now the whole city could watch her unravel. But the real moment came during a televised panel event. Samantha had been invited to speak on a local morning show, Women Rising Voices of Change. It was pre-recorded, scheduled to air the following Monday. Her last chance at presenting herself as a hero. But there was one problem. Producer on the show? She used to date my cousin. And when she found out who Samantha was married to, she called me. You want to get ahead of this? She said. Give me your side. Exclusive. We'll cut her segment entirely. I almost said yes. But then I had a better idea. Don't cut it, I said. Air it. Then give me the last word. Monday morning, 10 a.m. Samantha appeared on screen, poised and polished, in a soft blue dress. She smiled through practiced sincerity as she told the world about her mission and healing journey, how she'd survived years of emotional control, how the Haven Project was her way of giving back. Lies, all of it. and I let her tell everyone. Because right after the segment ended, the anchor said, "Now, a statement from her estranged husband, entrepreneur Matthew Cole, who has a very different version of the story. Cut to me. Pre-recorded, measured, direct, no drama,
No emotion.
just facts. I talked about the marriage, the sudden change in her behavior, the financial inconsistencies, the evidence of fraud. And then I said this: it's important to believe women when they say they're in pain, but it's also important to believe truth. Samantha Cole did not survive abuse. She engineered betrayal. The city exploded. My inbox flooded with support. People who donated to the Haven Project began demanding refunds. 2 former volunteers stepped forward with damning statements. The Attorney General's office opened a preliminary inquiry. Her nonprofit shut down within 5 days. Her public image shattered. And Daniel, the consultant, he went radio silent, deleted his socials. Word on the street, he took a consulting job in another state under a fake name. I got a call from Samantha that night. I let it go to voicemail. She left one message: "You didn't have to destroy me." But she was wrong. I didn't destroy her. She destroyed herself the moment she tried to take down a man who refused to break. There was still the trial, still a settlement to fight, still reputation repair. But for the first time since this all began, I could breathe. She wanted to ruin me quietly. Instead, she taught the entire city exactly who she really was. And I wasn't done yet. She walked into the courtroom wearing white, a high-collared blazer, minimal makeup, hair pulled back like some misunderstood saint. Her attorney called her to the stand and the act began. "Samantha, can you describe your emotional state during the last year of your marriage?" She took a breath, let her eyes well up. I felt unsafe, like I was being watched, controlled. I was scared to be myself. Oscar-worthy. She painted me as a paranoid, obsessive husband, claimed I had anger episodes, that I monitored her spending, that I belittled her work. I stayed quiet, calm, unmoved, until it was our turn. Paige stood and approached her. "Mrs. Cole, did you say," and I quote, "once he signs the power of attorney, we're golden?" Samantha froze. "What?" Paige pulled out her phone and plugged it into the speaker system. Click. The courtroom fell silent. And then her voice echoed off the walls. "Once he signs the power of attorney, we're golden. I'll frame it as, for emergencies only. He trusts me." Gasps. Even the judge raised her eyebrows. Samantha's face turned white. It didn't matter how many crocodile tears she shed after that. No jury was going to believe a word of it. That day we filed a formal fraud claim. Perjury. Conspiracy to mislead the court. Everything flipped. She wasn't the victim anymore. She was the manipulator, the liar. And for the first time since this nightmare began, she realized she wasn't in control anymore. The judgment came fast. After the recording, after the evidence, after the financial forensics traced her fake charity down to a beach condo in her sister's name, the judge ruled in my favor on every count. Samantha walked in expecting a payday. She walked out with 0 spousal support, full liability for the Haven Project's tax fraud, a pending criminal investigation, and a public image in flames. I kept my business, my house, my name. She got a legal bill longer than her lies. But I wasn't done yet. Not until I dropped the final bombshell. It came in the form of a press release. Paige helped me draft it. Professional, factual, devastating. We released it to every media outlet that had ever covered the Haven Project. Matthew Cole has formally filed a civil lawsuit against Samantha Cole and the Haven Project under the RICO Act, citing conspiracy, wire fraud, and defamation. But that wasn't even the twist. The twist was the second defendant. Rothman and Bell LLP, her divorce lawyers, the masterminds behind her strategy. C. Carla RPI found proof that they coached Samantha to fabricate her abuse claims. Emails, notes, prep materials for emotional posture in court. They weren't just her lawyers. They were her co-conspirators. And now I was dragging them all down with her. When the story hit the news, Rothman and Bell went dark.
Client withdrew.
Investigations opened. Bar complaints filed. I didn't just end Samantha's scam. I tore down the whole machine. She tried to ruin me from the shadows. But in the end, she stood exposed. Alone. Broke. And watching the empire she tried to steal go up in smoke. As for me, I rebuilt, refocused, and reminded myself what real peace feels like. Because revenge doesn't always come with fire and fury. Sometimes, comes in the form of silence, and watching your enemy drown in the truth they tried to bury. So that's how she lost everything. Not because I fought dirty, but because I fought back. And in the end, the truth did what it always does. It burned her whole world to the ground. Clapperboard, thanks for watching. If you made it this far, you know this wasn't just a story. It was a warning. If you've ever felt something wasn't right, if you've ever been lied to and made to feel crazy for noticing, you're not alone. Backhand index pointing down, drop a comment if the story hit home. Television, check out the next episode right here on the channel. Betrayal runs deep, and we've got more stories that will leave you speechless. Speech balloon, share your thoughts. Like, subscribe, hit the bell so you never miss a twist. And remember, she played the victim, but I made sure the world saw the truth. Let me know if you want me to plug a next story or title as a teaser, or if you want help packaging this for your narrator.